correct?
That is correct.
Just curious how that was determined.
That's a good question. I'm not sure how they determine that. Audra? By the minutes. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, the public hearing for the driver's education waiver is closed at 6:03 p.m. Moving to citizens' comments, it is my understanding we do not have any citizen comments at this time. So we can move to section 4 of the agenda, which is reports to the board. Dr. Gordon, would you please give a superintendent's update?
This is for Grebe. Thank you so much. Tonight we'll be launching our cell phone policy on our first day of school, which is August 13th. We're excited about that for all 3 levels. It looks a little bit differently, but instead of me talking about it, I'd like to play our video that we've been circulating within our community. Last time I heard, we had over 25,000 opens on our video. It's on our SMORE, which on this one, the only thing on it was the video itself. So we do know we're having great viewership across our district, and we've also heard from others outside of our district about the video. So we thought it would be a great place to put on platform tonight in the superintendent report, our video. Hi, District 303. This year, our educators, students, families, and community came together to support a shared goal: enhancing classroom learning by reducing digital distractions. Starting next school year, District 303 will implement a new cell phone procedure to help students stay focused and more connected to learning. We know how challenging teaching can be, and competing with social media and texting during class only adds to that. By reducing cell phone use at all levels, we're taking a step toward deeper engagement, stronger outcomes in classrooms that support every learner's success.
At our elementary schools, all smart devices, including smartwatches, smartphones, and AirPods, may be brought to school, but they must be turned off, silenced, and stored away during school hours.
So in all of our middle schools, our expectation is that students can bring their devices, whether it be a cell phone, a smartwatch, but they need to be silenced and put in their lockers for the entire school day. That includes lunch, recess, and passing periods.
By having one cohesive district policy, everyone's on the same page and is aware of why are we doing these things and for what purpose.
School's a place for learning. It's not a place to just do whatever you want. I feel like some teachers already do this, but now that everyone's going to do it, it'll make good habits and everyone will just be used to it once everyone's doing it.
So by students having them often in their locker and that being the consistent expectation for everyone in the building, it then makes it much easier for students to learn and for staff to start class right away and get right into content and learning.
We're focusing on learning, not at having our phone on the desk or hearing that buzz when we sit by the table.
At our high schools, all smart devices, including smartphones, smartwatches, and earbuds, may be brought to school, but must be silenced and placed in a cell phone caddy at the front of the classroom during instructional periods. Students can use their phones during non-instructional times, passing periods, study halls, and lunch, unless it's prohibited by specific classrooms or school rules. Phones will not be accessed when students are in the PE and athletic locker rooms, and students are not permitted to take their phone or device with them if they leave the classroom to use the restroom.
I think it's pretty good. Obviously, it's going to be a rough transition, getting used to it. Towards the beginning of the year when the phone caddies were more enforced, I thought it was actually ended up being better and I was more focused in class. And I think it's kind of like eating your vegetables, where it's not the most enjoyable thing, but it does help you in the long run.
Kids will probably be more motivated and involved and more engaged in class because they don't have their phone distracting them.
I think having a district initiative and a district Expectation across the board unites us as a community, not just building to building or student to student, but it's everyone.
I believe that the committee delivered on a very comprehensive, student-centered policy that will promote not only engagement in education, which I think is vitally important, but also the well-being and social interactions and interpersonal relationships that are so necessary at every level of education.
I think a lot of parents understand that the cell phone can be a distraction, but safety is something that all parents agree on. That's a big concern, especially nowadays, what we see on the news, what we see happening in other school districts. And I think doing the research on it was very calming for me. It was very reassuring for me that, in fact, having the cell phone monitored in those situations would actually be helpful to my child and student, and that even though it might mean that I have to wait longer to hear from my child if a situation happens, the odds of them coming through that situation safely have greatly increased.
It's a simple balance that honors students' real-world needs, yet keeps the focus where it should be, on their education and well-being.
Because we care deeply about our students and staff, we're taking this important step to improve the classroom environment by limiting cell phone use at all levels. Just a reminder, these new procedures will go into effect on the first day of school, August 13th. Thank you for being a valued part of the D303 community. So I think the video speaks for itself. We're excited this week in the district. Our district administrators are coming together for the week, really getting ourselves set to launch the school year. Really starting the year strong is one of those themes, this other theme around influence. But we're also taking pieces that we've learned from the cell phone committee. I think what Liam said was a really important message. We're here for learning. But I also appreciated what somebody else said, that collectively, when we wrap arms around and we make decisions collectively together, we're stronger and we're better. So we're excited about that. We're having conversations at the ad team about the start of the school year. What does this look like? And cell phones are a part of that. What does that look like when our educators come back in? We finish the year there, and then we'll start the year there to make sure that everyone's on that same page. What does this look like, sound like, feel like as we walk in and as we start the year strong? Other information, as I said, this week we're in our administrative time retreat, coming together, really thinking about the work of our district and the work going forward for educators. So far it's been a fantastic first day, really pleased with the participation, with the leadership who put together this week. Really pleased with the focus, the intentionality that this week brings to our educators across the district. With that, Mrs. Fear-Grieve, I'll hand it back to you.
Can I ask a question back on the cell phone? And maybe you haven't talked about it yet, but how do you envision it looking with the smart watches in particular? That seems to be the most challenging.
It is. We've really talked about it. It's one that we're encouraging students not to, but we also recognize that it is a watch as well. So it's not one that is going to have that consequences or those pieces, but we are encouraging families. That's not what we're looking for, but we also recognize that's not what I'm asking our teachers to get into any type of battle around and having that back and forth conflict with. It was a piece that we talked a lot about at the cell phone committee with our 70 community staff and student partners was on that. Where is that line? We'd rather it not be in because we recognize that still gives some feedback to the student, can be distracting. However, we also recognize it is also used as a watch and having those conversations. Thank you for asking that question.
Yeah, well, and I would agree, to ask an educator to try and decipher by student who's got a smartwatch, who doesn't, all of that, I just think it would be challenging.
It's literally, that was the conversation in the committee all together came to say, this isn't where we want to put our efforts right now on this. Let's start with the phone. Let's start where we know is making a big difference, and then let's move from there.
I think one of the things, to Paul's point, was not putting pressure on the teachers to make sure they're constantly watching every body part of the student and really focusing on educating and leading the class in the learning. But also if a student is providing distraction for others or doing things in any other way, like playing in their bag or at any level, they're still going to have a correction most likely from the teacher. It's just not going to be the main focus. And I think, should that become an enormous problem, I would assume it would be revisited. But it was, like Paul said, it was something we really wanted as a committee, but also we want the teachers to be there to educate, not to be correcting every moment of every second.
One more quick one from me. Paul, or Dr. Gordon, can you speak briefly about maybe the consequences for multiple violations of said policy?
Yeah, that's a piece we've had a lot of conversations with, especially at our high school. Where do we find this consistency? How do we support educators in these conversations? So that's one of the first things that we're doing, are setting up conversations with our assistant principals of student life, the deans, making sure that group first and foremost is on the same page. How do we document this? How do we support our educators? For our educators, really some clarity around you're that first line of defense, and we never want to take away an educator's power in the classroom. We never want to do that. So we really are making sure we're having good conversations with educators. What is this doing? What does this look like in the moment? Because we also don't want to create another distraction in taking away the learning. Oftentimes, what will be the first piece is, let's put your phone up in the caddy. And the great piece about being in D303, we have amazing young people. The vast majority of students are going to comply with that. And then the piece that we talk a lot about, Mr. Kuchert, is the consistency. That's the piece, Mrs. Hancock and I were talking about this literally right before the meeting. That is the key to this. It's that I trust all of our teachers in our building, that we're all following through. Because where we're going to struggle at is when we're inconsistently applying this procedure. Well, Ms. McCabe is really strict, but Dr. Gordon isn't. And, our students in our high schools go through 7 different classrooms. So they're having 7 different experiences. And hopefully it's not 7 different experiences related to the phone. So when it comes to that, it is really having that teacher feeling very confident to have those conversations. Put the cell phone up. Again, if it's non-compliant, we're going to talk after class. We're going to reach out to the parents, making sure we have partnership. That's another reason why we're pushing out our videos across all of our platforms, to ensure that our families are highly aware of this. I think we did tons of communication, throughout the year and into the spring, but we forget those pieces. And it's why Mike Vaughn and his team are really pushing out on social media a lot of information, so our parents are aware that this is the procedure across D303. This is what we're doing, and our why is because we're a learning institution. When you come here, we believe in our students so much, we want to give them every opportunity to thrive in that educational opportunity. And you know what? We've done a lot of research on what cell phones do and what happens with social media and the impact of it. But it's really about the student and making sure that the families know, why are we doing this? Not for control, not because we can, but because we believe in our kids so much that we want the best for them. So it is that progression of consequences and conversations with families, and then through that family piece, then the deans get involved in starting to have further conversations. So I literally just met with our 2 assistant principals of student life and saying, okay, I just want to touch base sometime next week, bringing our deans together, the assistant principals of student life, make sure that we're all on the same page, because they really did a beautiful job in the springtime working with their staff on those expectations. But they're also going to do, when teachers get back on August 11th and 12th, is have one more conversation about that. So another one of those pieces, I know it sounds simple, but the electronic referral system. So North has piloted it this past year and a half, I think a year. Now East is using it. So it's this real quick, easy system that allows, it goes right down to the dean. And then the dean does their work to it. But then it also feeds back to our teachers to say, this is what occurred. So we have this really nice electronic feedback loop that keeps the teacher involved in saying, oh, this is what occurred because of this situation that happened here. So they've been incredibly thoughtful in leaning into each other at the different levels, or at the different schools at the high school. Have really good conversations at the middle school as well. Middle school is pretty much right where we've been, but it's now the consistency too. So really hammering home the consistency that each and every one of us are a part of this policy or procedure. I keep saying it is a procedure. And what I reminded, our teachers brought this to us through our joint leadership team. And I literally remember like it was yesterday saying, I'm all in, but you all have to be all in. This doesn't work. This is one of those ones where across the board, educators, leaders, everybody needs to be all in on what we're doing. Because we have seen examples already of school districts who've gone down this road and have already started to backtrack. So we don't want to be that cautionary tale out there. We want to be the one that says, we've done it, it's hard. I'm not saying this is going to be easy. We have 12,500 kids. We have roughly, 1,900 students at each of our high schools. We have, hundreds of educators. So we have a lot of humans involved in something. And anytime you have a lot of humans involved, there's going to be some pieces. But it's how do we do our feedback loops? How are we making sure we're checking in on each other? And how are we consistently holding up what we're saying in this video? Because the video looks great. It all feels good. But do we implement it really well? And I feel like we have so many pieces in place to implement it well. That was a long-winded answer. I apologize.
One thing to note also is that we've been doing that this whole school year, well, this past school year, I forget it's already summer. So it's not something brand new coming this fall, it's just the laid out procedure that's been completely finalized is new this year, whereas it was being implemented last year.
In some pockets, not across. But yeah, some teachers were doing it, really doing it well. I mean, with the teacher who was on here at the very end, she's been like from day one, she's been following through on it. She's been one of those ones who's used the caddy from day one. But the difference is the consistency of it. And that we need every educator, every leader, every district office personnel, every school office personnel, this is what we're doing to really make a difference. And again, where I'm at with this and why I believe in so much of it is because we want the best for our kids. We want the best learning opportunity for our students. And I was speaking with Mrs. Hancock, as I alluded to earlier. Do I believe this is the silver bullet, the panacea of all, that the blue skies and butterflies and doves are going to be singing on day one? No. But what I do believe in is that we're starting to stack some really good things together for our kids. The more things that we stack that are in support of them, in support of our educators, it's one more variable we're taking out of the educational environment that gives our students and our teachers even a better opportunity to thrive in our classrooms. That's why I get excited about it.
I have one quick thought, and hopefully teachers aren't watching because it's July, but is there going to be conversation with staff members about how modeling is important and how not using their own cell phones during the day isn't important? I understand that adults are different than children, right? And sometimes I would have students who would say, why do you get to whatever? Mm-hmm. And I would say, because I went to college. And as soon as you go to college, you can do it too. But just when it comes to something like this that you're trying to implement and you want to be consistent and you want the buy-in, will there be a reminder for staff members?
Dr. Rich, thank you for that. Yes, we've talked about that, how it's important to be modeling these behaviors. It's not going to go well. We've sent students off for independent learning and work, and I'm sitting at my desk doing whatever. And I could be doing the greatest thing in the world on this phone, but what I'm sending is, you know what, I'm above the procedure. I get to do what I want to do. And I recognize there is difference in adults and students. But we should always try to be modeling, and anyone who's a parent knows, our children and our students are always watching us. So we should always try to be that model. I'm not saying we have to be this perfect human being, but in these instances, we really should. During passing periods, during breaks, pull out your phone. But we also recognize, just like students, there are going to be emergencies. There's going to be things that happen. We're not going to be draconian, but we are going to be responsive and thoughtful. But what we've asked is, we should be the models. We should be the models. So that is the expectation, while recognizing life does happen. And sometimes when you're an adult and you have children, you have families, and you have other things, that sometimes that's going to occur. And we've given strategies on, hey, if something big is happening in your life, let your students know. Just as students would tell us too, hey, today's this. So we have worked through some different strategies and pieces that we've talked to our staff about. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, good discussion. Thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Next, well, first of all, a note, the streaming is up and running and has been corrected, so we're good there. Board member reports on committee meetings. I'd like to start with business services.
Okay. Thank you, Mrs. Fairgrieve. So business service, we had a relatively brief meeting on June 23rd at 5:30 p.m. I think it was a total of about a half an hour. We first went over our typical action items for discussion items for the Mid-Valley Financial Report and the CUSD 303 Financial Report. They were all trending on target. We then had a nice discussion regarding a wellness committee update. Dr. Attaway presented some information. Every national school lunch program participant needs to have a local school wellness policy. So he took us through all of that, the information that is available to families. I had posed a question as to whether or not the information is readily available on site. The clarification was given that it's readily available on the website at any point, so at each of the levels. So if folks are interested in learning a little bit more about the nutritional content and so forth, that information is readily available on the site. We also then went over the fiscal year 2026 tentative budget. Again, some decent discussion there. The board is required, or the administration rather, required to present that information to the board. Then in, I believe it's July, we will then post it for the public for a 30-day time period, and then the board will take action in September for that. The last item that we went over was the annual district IT renewals, which is on consent agenda for this evening. And then we discussed a few future agenda items, the topic of hazardous road conditions, how that will be assessed, which for the public who's listening now that may not have been listening then, it will be right at the beginning of the school year, since the volume of traffic will presumably increase in and around our schools and neighborhoods. The new routes to be examined in the future will also be occurring. I think that's about it. Dr. Rich, am I missing anything that you recall?
That's great.
Yes, and it was our first opportunity to chair together, and so first of many in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kuchert. Next, like to ask if there's a housing committee update. Mrs. Bell attended that.
There is. It's not super detailed because the things are not completely flushed out. There's a draft report, and because it's reasonably new, I'm not sure how they handle those things, but there's a draft plan working on a Habitat for Humanity collaboration, and I believe the city has done similar things in the past where they've collaborated twofold. One, there's going to be a Habitat for Humanity Day that some employees of this city and then members of the Housing Committee are going to come and volunteer, and they have too many volunteers, so they're really excited about that. I don't remember exactly which day is picked. I think it's mid-September, September 13th or 14th. And then the other thing they're talking about is, again, this is a draft, so it hasn't been completely flushed out, but they're talking about a new program to be able to help support some members of the St. Charles community in need, if they have an urgent need with a housing repair that comes up that they can't completely cover, they can apply for, the amount hasn't been set yet, but it'll be a small amount for a grant from the city. They have to meet certain how much they make per year, how many people in their house. They have a couple of variables that aren't completely finished yet. Like I said, it's still a draft, but it's a really neat program that they're working on. So those are the two main things.
Thank you. How about from a learning and teaching standpoint?
Sure, I can offer an update on the last Learning and Teaching Committee meeting. It was June 16th. Mrs. Stahl facilitated a discussion on the curriculum development process, a specific dive into how the CAI process works and functions, a review of expected content areas for focus over the next year or so. There was also a discussion of what inspires or triggers curriculum work, things like changes in the board goals, student outcomes, compliance with state policy changes or standards changes, contracts and licenses that expire as different ways that work around curriculum development would be inspired to be done. Next, there was a discussion facilitated by Ms. Christensen on the high school experience. We focused the discussion around the post-secondary and career expectations framework and how that framework is used in the career and college readiness process. There was also a first recommendation on the time usage committee on allocating dedicated time, perhaps outside of ELA classes, for college and career planning for students, and then as well for what I need time for students in order for them to focus on their academic and other successes. There was a further discussion on the waivers, both for SIP days and for driver's ed, the public hearings for which we had this evening, and you'll see on the agenda tonight. There was further discussion around Title I funding and using Title I funding at the school level for several of our schools. And the next meeting is on 8/18.
Thank you, Mr. Lackner. And with that, we have one more committee update, which would be policy.
We met on June 30th at 4 o'clock, and as typical for policy, we had close to 30 policies to go through. Mostly were the kinds of changes that come when laws are changed at the state level, and press provides us. I think all of you received those policies, and anyone has the opportunity to see the streaming as well, and we are voting on those policies tonight.
Okay, thank you. Okay, that concludes the reports on committee meetings. Now moving to our next item, can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda, items 5A through 5N?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. McCabe, and the second for Mr. Kuchert. Is there any discussion or questions at this time? Okay, Ms. Marsan, please take the roll call vote.
Mrs. Hancock?
Yes.
Mr. Kuchert?
Yes.
Mr. Lackner?
Yes.
Mrs. McCabe?
Yes.
Dr. Rich?
Yes.
Mrs. Bell?
Yes.
Mrs. Fairgrave?
Yes. Motion passes 7-0. Next, moving to for action, the first item is the driver's education simulator waiver. Can I have a motion to approve the driver's education waiver renewal for school years 2025 through 2026 through 2029 through 2030?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Lackner. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Hancock. Any discussion or questions at this time? Okay. Ms. Marsan, please take the roll call vote.
Mr. Kuchert?
Yes.
Mr. Lackner?
Yes.
Mrs. McCabe?
Yes.
Dr. Rich?
Yes.
Mrs. Bell?
Yes.
Mrs. Hancock?
Yes.
Mrs. Fairgrave?
Yes, motion passes 7-0. Next item for action is School Improvement Days waiver. Can I have a motion to approve the School Improvement Days waiver renewal for school years 2025 to 2026 through 2029 to 2030?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Lackner.
Second.
Is there a second? Mr. Kuchert, thank you. Any discussion or questions at this time? Okay, Ms. Marsan, please take the roll call vote.
Mr. Lackner,
Yes.
Mrs. McCabe,
Yes.
Dr. Rich,
Yes?
Mrs. Bell,
Sorry, yes.
Mrs. Hancock,
Yes.
Mr. Kuschert,
Yes.
Mrs. Fairgrave.
Yes, motion passes 7-0. The next item was the Norris, or is the Norris Recreation Center rooftop unit. Can I have a motion to approve the contract that was awarded to Helm Mechanical for the replacement of the Norris Recreation Center rooftop unit?
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. McCabe. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Kuschert. Any questions or discussion at this time?
I just thought it was noteworthy to mention that in the documentation, it talked about the repairs costing upwards of $30,000 and a brand-new unit being just over double that cost. I think it's kind of a no-brainer for whatever my opinion is worth to get rid of an old piece of equipment and replace it for less than double the cost.
I would definitely agree with that. And then the other thing I think it's important to note is this this repair, or really not repair, but this decision needed to be made on an emergency basis due to a situation happening at the recreation center. So within our policy guidance, that is why the decision was made outside the board, and then it's coming here now. Okay. Ms. Marsan, would you please take the roll call vote?
Mrs. McCabe,
Yes.
Dr. Rich,
Yes.
Mrs. Bell,
Yes.
Mrs. Hancock,
Yes.
Mr. Kuschert,
Yes.
Mr. Lackner,
Yes.
Mrs. Fairgrave.
Yes, motion passes 7-0. And the final for action item is related to the Northwestern Illinois Association Subregion Executive Board ballot. Can I have a motion to approve voting for Diane Terrell for District Administrator and Steve Florentino for School Board Member for the Northwestern Illinois Subregion Executive Board?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Bell. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Lackner. Any questions or discussion at this time? Okay, Ms. Marsan, would you please take the roll call vote?
Dr. Rich,
Yes.
Mrs. Bell,
Yes.
Mrs. Hancock,
Yes.
Mr. Kuschert,
Abstain.
Mr. Lackner,
Abstain.
Mrs. McCabe,
Yes.
Mrs. Fairgrave.
Yes, motion passes 5-2. Okay, next, moving to section 7 on the agenda, which is for discussion, related to an upcoming Kishwaukee Division event. This was put on the agenda at the request of one of the board members. There's a proposal that our district consider hosting the fall session of the IASB Kishwaukee Division event on Thursday, October 23rd. The theme of the event is District Success Stories, and those of you that have been on the board might recall that we did have a similar opportunity about a year ago, and then at that time, the decision was made to defer because we had a lot going on from a construction standpoint, real estate, and so forth. So, question is, what are board members' thoughts? In speaking with Dr. Gordon, his thought, I mean, you can also speak to it too. His thought, as if you're not here, his thought is that we would be able to give an overview on our newly implemented cell phone procedures. So it would be, as even we just saw, this has been very well outlined already and should be rolled out very well also. So a lot of the effort has already been put in place. So that would be the topic we would do. And then the second half of the meeting would be a roundtable format where districts share their success stories. Our responsibilities as the host, first of all, of course, would be to attend and show a presence. Secondly, would be to provide light appetizers and soft drinks of that nature. One idea which I think is outstanding and is really, I believe, a best practice from other districts is that we engage our culinary students at the high school and even potentially the middle school to provide the food for the event. So they would be able to showcase their skills, get some experience in a different type of format. So thoughts?
Just for clarity, IASB does reimburse for that cost. That is not the food cost is not something that the district bears. I mean, in the moment they do, but then it's reimbursed.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Yep.
What's the time frame? Are we doing this during school hours or after school hours?
Oh, no. It's 6 to 8 p.m. usually.
I would like to ask that maybe we ask our high schools to provide some jazz, something that showcases other parts of our, we used to do this when we would go to other schools, and the kids would come in and they'd do the, you'd hear the beginning orchestras and things like that. So if there's a possibility that we could, are we going to hold it in this room? So we have the artwork up, whatever kinds of things we might be able to do to highlight what our kids do would be great.
Thank you.
What do we anticipate for?
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, please, you first.
I'm just going to say, how many people attend this?
If I remember right, isn't it like 40 to 60 is anticipated?
Something like that. It's different every time, but usually this topic was quite the draw. This is what they really wanted to hear about, was cell phone and it being done well with so much input from such a big group. They just were kind of gobsmacked at it being so successful and well done and well rolled out as far as how we involve the whole community, how you involve the whole community. So I think it might be on the higher end, but there's no way to know. They do ask for RSVPs, but something around there.
Any other questions?
What exactly is our role in this as board members?
Well, I think probably, again, as I'd mentioned earlier, I think just off the bat, it would be just showing a presence, providing support for the district and the administration team. I'm also just thinking off the top of my head, there probably is an opportunity when we do the success story presentation piece of somebody providing a board or somebody's providing board perspective. And then I'm, open to other ideas. It really would be our session, so we could, draft it as we'd like.
How long are the presentations usually?
The two are supposed to be 30 minutes max, so they suggest 20, or originally it was 25 minutes with 5 minutes of Q&A, and people just said there just wasn't enough Q&A, and so they asked if we could do 20 and 10, because I think there's going to be a lot of questions.
So I guess I would ask at this time, I'm not hearing, is there a consensus that we should go forward and commit?
I'm happy to do it, yeah.
Okay.
I have no objections.
Okay. All right. So with that, we will move forward. And, thank you, Mrs. Bell, for bringing this forward. Okay, moving to the next item for information. There are 4 items, our standing items really, in the information packet. Our D303 financial report, the Mid-Valley financial report, our FOIA or Freedom of Information Act requests, and then finally preliminary district enrollment for the coming year. With that, moving to new business. Are there any new business items that a board member would like to introduce at this time? Okay. Do we have any citizen comments? It looks like we do. Okay, thank you. May I ask Ms. Jessica Metz?
Just a minute.
Yes.
Sorry, we have to read our little statement before you come up. During the public comment period, members of the public body who wish to speak are asked to first state their name and community in which they reside. Each individual will have up to 3 minutes to address the board on a topic of their choosing. We ask all individuals who address the board to do so with respect and civility towards others. Please note that personnel matters are sensitive and confidential. We also want to inform our speakers that all regular, special, and committee meetings are live streamed and available for viewing at any time on the district's YouTube channel. Personal information should be considered before making a statement that will be recorded and made public. While the board will not respond to today's public comment during this meeting, we are committed to listening to you to help support our work for the district and on behalf of our students, staff, families, and community members. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Becky. All right, hi, I'm Jessica Metz. I live in St. Charles. I'm here as a taxpayer and a parent of a student that's in the district. I'm super nervous because I'm not as prepared as I'd like to be, so sorry. All right. I'm also here as part of the special education parents community that specifically sent a letter to the board and administration in March. This letter was sent in March and not really addressed. There was no acknowledgement. The letter eventually, we moved into a petition. We upheld the administration to accountability through a policy that the next policy meeting, it was adjusted. There are many details attached to this letter and petition that I expect everyone to already know that's sitting at this table, so I'm not going to dive into them, but moving forward, we're expecting transparency and integrity. We expect good faith. We expect the leadership to be reflecting the wonderful staff, the wonderful teachers, the support staff. They're amazing, they're incredible. We want your leadership to reflect that. Usually they should reflect the leadership. This leadership has a lot of need for control, coercion, bullying. The pattern that us special education parents see is a high need for control. My son's gonna have a laptop next year in kindergarten. That's crazy to me. We don't even have a tablet. He doesn't watch anything on my phone. I know that's unheard of this day and age. He's gonna have a kindergarten tablet, laptop, whatever. I was calmed down by the fact that he can't bring it home until 1st or 2nd grade. That's still wild. He can't bring it home in the summer. So we have the funding for all these kids to have laptops and they can bring them home, but we're lacking some funding somewhere for services and support for our students. We're lacking what resources to provide this transparency and better communication. I don't understand why it is more efficient, I guess, to just use legal fees against parents that want support. I had an issue of moving my son to the PM session last year when he should have been in the AM, and he ended up without therapy for 6 months because of the schedule change. No one cared. Things like that when his teacher had 11 students and she only had 9 in her AM class, and I was told no repeatedly. I would really like to encourage the board and administration to make good choices, right choices, and keep your integrity. Overall, I would just like to see better. And that's kind of what I wanted to say today on behalf of not just me, but a whole community of special education parents. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, can I have a motion to adjourn the July 14th, 2025 school board meeting?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Kuchert. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Lackner. Ms. Marsan, please take the roll call vote.
Mrs. Bell?
Yes.
Mrs. Hancock?
Yes.
Mr. Kuchert?
Yes.
Mr. Lackner?
Yes.
Mrs. McCabe?
Yes.
Dr. Rich?
Yes.
Mrs. Fairgrieve?
Yes, motion passes 7-0. The meeting is adjourned.